The Ghana Armed Forces has launched an operation to raid the country's border communities of suspected terrorists, some of whom have disguised themselves as nomadic herdsmen. The operation is also to ensure illegal immigrants and others living unlawfully in the country are sent back to their countries. In an interview with Joy News, Deputy Defense Minister Kofi Amankwa-Manu said so far, over 20,000 persons have been repatriated to their countries, with more expected in the coming days.
This problem is getting really bad. And so armed forces is helping RESEC to really deal with this issue of not allowing these illegal immigrants and then the herdsmen and these terrorism groupings free movement, 20,000. And the numbers keep increasing by the day because of the fact that, our neighboring countries have intensified, security actions against these terrorism groupings. And so we have many of them blocking into Ghana because of the peace we have in this country. But that peace is something we really must protect and make sure we continue to enjoy.
Let's go back to one of such border communities where my colleague Elias Tanko has been monitoring the ongoing repatriation exercise for updates. Elias, we understand the repatriation is ongoing in Paga. What can you report from there? All right, we're trying to get Elias Tanko to tell us more about the repatriation because the Ghana Armed Forces has launched an operation to raid the country's border communities of suspected terrorists, some whom have disguised themselves as nomadic herdsmen. The operation is also to ensure illegal immigrants and others living unlawfully in the country are sent back to their countries. In an interview with Joy News, we heard the Deputy Defense Minister Kofi Amankwa-Manu saying that so far over 20,000 persons have been repatriated to their countries, with more coming up in the coming days. Elias Tanko thankfully has joined us again. We know that the repatriation is ongoing in Paga. What can you report from where you are, Elias? Elias. Well, there seems to be a connection problem. We'll try and get Elias back. When we do, we'll bring you that interview. And as we wait for Elias to join us, let's get on to other stories. All 10 flag-bearer aspirants of the NPP have been cleared by the vetting committee led by Professor Michael Eronokwe to contest the elections. The committee concluded its work and presented its recommendations to the National Council through the General Secretary on Monday. This led to the steering committee yesterday and subsequent release of the list of the according to the party's elections guidelines. Samuel Mbura joins us on Zoom with more. What is contained in the statement released by the NPP on the flag-bearer election after the steering committee's meeting yesterday, Mbura?
Pursuant to Article 10.3 of the New Patriotic Party's Constitution, the vetting committee for the party's presidential primary election submitted its report to the National Council through the General Secretary on Monday, and that was July 10. Subsequently, there was a meeting where there was a meeting between the vetting committee and the steering committee, and the report was placed before them. So, per the party's protocol, the steering committee went through the report yesterday, and per the guidelines, published it. And in the report, the committee recommended that all 10 aspirants are eligible to participate in the upcoming presidential primaries, subject to the approval of the National Council. So I'll just run you through the list of all the 10 aspirants in the order in which they have been qualified. So we have Alan Chermantin, who is a former Trade and Industry Minister, Mr. Kojo Poku, Energy Analyst, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, Boachi Ejako, former Energy Minister, Honorable Kobina Eje Japon, former General Secretary. The C person is Kennedy Ohene Japon, Asin Central MP. We have Dr. Kofi Kunedua Preku, being the 7th person on the list. Dr. Owusu Akoto-Afiye, the former Agric Minister. Joe Gatti, former Railway Development Minister, and the 10th aspirant, Francis Adainimo. So these are all the 10 aspirants that the party or the vetting committee led by Professor Mike Eronokwe has qualified or cleared to contest in the upcoming elections of the NPP.
So after this process, what next in Bura?
So the National Council of the party would have to sit over this recommendation by the vetting committee. So meaning the fate of the aspirants is still hanging because it is not a sure bet that the vetting committee's recommendation is a blanket one. If there are issues or there are any information available to the National Council that deems it fit for them to disqualify any aspirants, then that will be it. But we know the number is above 5, and per the party's guidelines, if the aspirants are more than 5, they have to go for the super delegates conference. In my earlier conversation with the or the general secretary of the party, he said that all is in place for the super delegates congress to happen because the number is about 5. But they are still waiting for the approval of the National Council of the party, which is scheduled on July 20, 2023. So after that meeting, that we'll get the final approval or otherwise of the report of the vetting committee.
Samuel Mbura is with our political desk. He's been monitoring this for us. There's more we'll be telling you on the NPP flag bearership race. Let's go back to our earlier story where the armed forces is embarking on repatriation of people who pose as nomadic herdsmen. Eliaso Tanko is in the town of Paga where the exercise is taking place. Eliaso, what can you report from where you are?
Well, what I can tell you is that hundreds of them are currently being taken to the border at Paga, and they are conducting identification checks. They are looking at those who have Ghana cards. They are also looking at those who can speak any of the Ghanaian languages. These are the bases that for now they are using to repatriate these people who have come in to seek refuge. And it's happening across the northern part of the country. In Wale Wale yesterday, there was similar exercise happening in the Bole, in the Savannah region. The same incident happened also in Chile, in the Upper East region. Similar exercise happened. So in the Northeast region, for instance, officials said only yesterday more than 6 buses loaded with refugees, if you like, and with the military convoy, they were taken out of the country. So that is what is currently happening across the north of the country.
We're hearing that these refugees, some of them pose as nomadic herdsmen. Tell us more about the identities of these refugees.
Well, yes, a lot of them have come because of their influx. The flow has been very difficult for the officials at the borders to manage it. Last week, there was a camp set up to house all these refugees coming in. Unfortunately, according to the Ghana Refugees Board, this camp has been deserted. None of them are willing to go into this particular camp. And so yes, these are people that have come in fleeing jihadist attacks in their communities. And most of them that are currently being sent back are members of the Fulani ethnic group. Some of them, we understand, have been taken back without their cattle. And authorities are now in the process to resolve that particular challenge. They are bringing them back so that they can carry along their cattle.
All right, Albert Sori is our correspondent in Eliaso Tanko has been giving us more from Paga, but we have been joined by the Deputy Defense Minister, Kofi Amankwame. I'm grateful for your time, sir. What has necessitated this repatriation exercise?
Thank you very much, and I hope you're doing well.
Very well, thank you.
Yes, so what is actually happening is that neighboring countries, Burkina Faso, Togo, and then Cote d'Ivoire are conducting some security operations, to deal with the issue of terrorism grouping. And so most people are taking haven in Ghana. So we have a lot of people coming into Ghana. And our intelligence is that some of these armed groupings, terrorist armed persons have disguised themselves into herdsmen, into illegal immigrants, and all that, trying to come into our country. And so the various RESEC have been tasked to deal with the situation. And the Ghana Armed Forces is also assisting the various RESEC, along our borders to deal with the situation. So basically, we are acting on intelligence and trying to do that. Obviously, if our intelligence, indicates that you are a terrorist or you belong to any terrorist group, we cannot allow you to be in this country. So basically, we're trying as much as possible to restrict their movement and then to make sure that we do proper screening to really know who and who is coming to this country. Basically, that is all the operation.
So far, you say 20,000 people have been repatriated. How many more are you looking forward to repatriating?
Under the circumstances, it will be difficult to even tell how many we're going to have today or tomorrow because they are coming in droves. And so it will be difficult to put a figure to how many people are coming in. But some of them, this figure is really conservative because you have some not going through proper channels to come to this country. Others are using, unapproved routes. But these are the ones we've been able to capture approximately. That is the number. And I think a lot more will come. But we are trying to do our best to make sure that we have proper screening and then we do that which is right for the security of our people.
Beyond this exercise, Honorable Minister, what measures are you putting in place to ensure that you curtail the influx of illegal immigrants in here?
So what it says is that I'll come back to what we've been doing over the period, what this government has been doing to really deal with the issue of terrorism and the illegal movement of people. So if you look, we are trying to put up, forward operating bases, along our northern borders. And so we will have permanent men in there because these are mini barracks, if one, for want of a better word. So when we do that, we are going to work with the police and immigration 24/7 to make sure that whoever enters this country, we have an eye on that person.
I'm grateful for your time. Kofi Amankwame, he's Deputy Defense Minister. It's an exercise we're watching with keen eyes. Definitely there's update for you, our viewers, in our subsequent bulletins. To other stories, the Electricity Company of Ghana has cut power to two entities over 22,000 cedis debts. This is part of the ECG's fresh revenue mobilization exercise dubbed Operation Zero, targeted at recovering debt from domestic consumers and to capture new customers into the billing system. According to External Communications Manager of the ECG, Leila Abubakar, the two companies were disconnected because they refused to make any commitment to pay the debt.
Day one of Operation Zero was pretty successful. As we have said earlier on, the zero in our Operation Zero simply stands for no customer should pay zero to ECG after consuming electricity, and there should be zero customers on illegal connections and faulty meters and the like. And so we saw a number of our staff going about this business and trying to educate customers on how to use our online platforms to make payments, that is if these customers owe. And for those who have prepaid meters, they were also educated on how to use the platform to make life easier for them. In some isolated cases in the eastern region and Greater Accra region. We saw some customers being disconnected from the polls because these customers are recalcitrant and they have refused to pay ECG the debts they owe them. The customers that I have on record owe 10,000 and 11,000 Ghana cedis, and one of them also refused ECG staff access to the meter even though they were present at the premises, and so they were disconnected. As usual, our revenue mobilization, our national task force also embarked on dealing with the bigwigs, which includes some of the ministries, departments, and agencies under the government. And also for all those other companies that we had payment plans on, we followed up on with them. And so this is the update for Monday. This is the update for day one.
Roam the streets in the day, make a living at lorry terminals and pass the night under bridges and open spaces. At Asafo, one of the biggest lorry terminals in Kumasi, the menace of streetism continue to be a threat to society and a worry to city authorities. More in this report. Well, we apologize for that. We'll bring you that story shortly. But the KNUST scientists have predicted Ghana's greenhouse gas emission will double by 2030. The scientists and KNUST have said the study led by Dr. Yen Adam Sokama Nuyam of the Department of Petroleum Engineering arrived at this conclusion based on analysis of recent findings.
As a country, we need to fight climate change, and climate change is driven by greenhouse gas emission. We as a country, we have made it our priority to reduce greenhouse gas emission. The government have said it time and over, they are aiming to reduce emission by about 15% by the year 2030, which is a very good ambition. Now, if we decide that we want to reduce emission, first of all, we need to know the emission rate of our country. We need to be able to monitor it. That means we need to have some tools that can help us to monitor, and we need to be able to predict our emission into the future. As a country, we've done well in collecting emission data. From 1990, we have collected a lot of emission data which are in different institutions. Okay. What we did was simply bring these emission data together and try to analyze them to see how our emission has been changing over the years. And then based on that, we use machine learning to try to predict our emission into the near future. And we've done the prediction from 2016 to 2030. And based on the study, actually, if we are going by our current trajectory, our emission is not going to go down by 15% by the year 2030, but rather is going to more than double by the year 2030. So that was what this research was all about. Then another finding that we made was that most of our emission that is coming from the energy sector is coming from the transportation, that is driving of cars and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, the reasons are that most of us use cars. I think as a country, you either have a car or at least you are aiming to buy one. And also, most of our cars are pretty old. Even as a person, I'm using a used car. Most people in Ghana drive used cars, and these cars are not fuel efficient, so they tend to emit more greenhouse gases into the environment. So one solution that we propose is mass transportation. Now, you may propose, for example, electric vehicles, but how many people in Ghana can afford electric vehicles? Do we even have the power to be able to power these cars around? You know, you may propose maybe solar vehicles. That is more realistic, but even that, to what extent can we be able to get this within this time space of, let's say, 2023 to 2030? We will not be able to get that. But we can begin to build infrastructure for mass transportation. We can travel by train. Okay, the government is trying to develop that. So we can invest in these areas, and it will help us to reduce emission. Another area we can go is to blend our fuel. Instead of using just the fossil fuels, we can go into biofuels, which we have technology in this institution to produce. And then we blend it with the fossil fuels, and that will reduce emission as well. So these are some of the areas that we have looked at.
We can go back to our earlier story where streetism is rife in the Ashanti town of Kumasi at the Asafo Market, the biggest lorry terminal.
The space under the Asafo interchange is home to scores of people, mostly children who are often at the risk of sexual abuse. They are either chased out by domestic violence, drug and alcohol abuse, death of a parent, family breakdown and other social economic factors. Mafia is heavily pregnant. She sleeps under the Asafo interchange despite the unfavorable weather. She became a commercial sex worker after the death of both parents. She cannot track her external family because she was born on the street. She already has one child who has been adopted due to poor parenting. Mafia says life on the street is difficult, but she has no option than to resume her sex for money business after delivery.
Mama Jawali, we join the Jaya on Yesusha, Kumasi. Abusia for some mamma, ever say, why is Slim Nobody Pano, she and Bapenti, Minima, Mikulu, Minimechi. See them, Medana Samewa, Kumasi, I say.
We have no helper. We are always gallivanting on the streets. My parents are divorced. Right now, I have 2 children. I don't work. At first, I was a sex worker, but I'm unable to do that now. Yet, I have plans of going back to it. I plead with the authorities to come to my aid.
It's a yes, I'm a anonymous, but yes, I come better than member. I make a champion for so many madam, no woman, Kolanoma, and is a quam a fast walk. And I say, I'm a diagon. Any baby, I'm limited, but you so tired, just I'm a robot, Menets in the Diana Masabese.
Others share similar experiences.
I have lost both parents. My extended family have left me to my fate. At night, I hit the streets and engage in sex work to get money for food.
I said, Madame for being a Casacasa and Michis, a municipal glue son and in a son, and then Miss Philip and Jana Besha. The bar almost the bar 2015. My badass are 2015 in coffee.
I had a fight with a friend, so I rushed out of home to sleep here. I came here around 2015. I only load goods to survive. I sleep under the overhead. There are so many thieves here. They rob me all the time. I would be glad if I could go back to where I used to work, at least to survive. These children living on the street want the government to assist them start apprenticeship.
This Paguno saw any pennies to me, mammy free, you more, but almost in Minchess Castle Masaba, Momo. It's coming a scar and I come with a common master now. I was on Benjamin 25 million. I come a bush of foreign so I won't share my feast to Taba. Come a penabont in Amidiako.
Gender activist Equia Efriye supports the children with food and clothing. They are looking up to the government to help get them out of the street.
To me, you could die every mountain so every son could die, and yes, one more mobile wow, one more sign you mountain so or my gun and Mehuna man say, one more the quiet arm robbers, one more tiwa, I do money, necro force most one, obeying in it.
If we don't get the children off the streets, They are the same ones who will turn armed robbers and terrorize us. Evil thoughts will fill their minds and they will commit crimes without conscience. The females will turn sex workers and be impregnated.
For Joy News, Nana Boch Dankwa Kumasi.
We'll take a break on Joy News Desk. There is more after this break. Welcome back to Joy News Desk. To the rest of our stories. A research fellow at the Center for African Studies, Free State University, South Africa, Dr. Musa Vegana, is advocating for and urging the Ghanaian youth to step up and take positions of decision-making in the country. Speaking at the Citizens Forum on Youth, Democracy, Peace and Elections, organized by the Youth Bridge Foundation, he stressed that in a country that's population is largely youth, they must be allowed to a space on the decision-making table. There's more in the following report.
Ghana's 2020 youth voter population, according to the Electoral Commission, consists of 55.1% of the total voter population. However, this number does not translate into a vibrant youth representation in governance. The Youth Bridge Foundation organized a forum to identify and address the gaps and root causes of youth marginalization in governance, identify and address the symptoms of underlying governance and democratic deficit, and to provide policy advice on responsible youth participation in democracy, elections, and promotion of peace. Speaking at the forum, a research fellow at the Center for African Studies, Dr. Musa Vegana Chibwana, advocated the inclusion of many youth in leadership positions.
Forward. Who is this young person? I have put before you several attributes of this Ghanaian young person who should be able to take the democracy of Ghana forward, who should be able to preserve the peace, independence, and solidarity of this Ghana forward. Who is this young person? This young person is confident. Confident to stand for office to start with. But it's good to want to be president. You have to be confident, you have to believe in yourself. The statistics that we're hearing here from the Electoral Commission are very concerning. Young people are the ones who are voting, 78%, I wrote this down. Young people are the king makers, but they're not kings. That's concerning. You're making kings, but you're not the kings. You're not in parliament, but you're making parliamentarians. You're making councillors, but you're not any. That's concerning. You're not on the ballot paper. That's worrisome. Even if a young person is on the ballot paper, fellow young people will not vote for them. Because they look at them and say, they don't have experience. But how do you get the experience until you get a chance? Come on, give fellow young people a chance by voting for them. Have confidence in fellow young people.
He further urged the youth to be committed to integrity even at the very tender age, and believes that it is the only way to curb the pandemic of corruption plaguing the African continent.
You have to commit that whatever you shall do, you love your country so much to be corrupt. You shall not be corrupt. One of the things we are contending with on the continent is we are losing a lot of resources through unscrupulous ways. People are digging out our gold and they are flying out with our gold without paying a dime, without paying anything. Corruption is rife in some of our countries on the continent. I pray it's not so in Ghana. But as young people, you need to commit that I shall not be corrupt. Can I hear you say that? In fact, start by saying it now. Say, I'm not corrupt. Yeah, so you should not be the one who pays those bribes at school when you are late to the prefects or to the... If you're stealing a pen today, I'm talking to someone here. If you're stealing a pen today, that's a bad telltale sign. You are corrupt. You are likely to steal an aeroplane. Yeah. So here's what I'm saying. Commit that I will not be corrupt. I will be a person of integrity. I will keep my reputation as a good person. Because that's what the country needs. That's what the continent needs.
Programs Manager of Youth Bridge Foundation, Joyce Nyami, stated that it is important that the peace enjoyed in the country is protected through a multi-stakeholder approach to avoid the overflow of threats from our neighboring countries.
Youth Bridge Foundation, we are a continental focus-based organization. So with our engagement with young people across Africa, we realize that there is a threat that is coming towards the Ghanaian space. So we see Benin, we see Ivory Coast, and we see the other countries that we are closer to. We realize there is a need for raising awareness of the need for us to preserve the peace that we are enjoying in Ghana. That's one of the major reasons why we think we shouldn't wait for elections to come before we start talking about the need for peace. We have to start now and talk about peace.
The Youth Bridge Foundation is a non-profit organization committed to youth development across the African continent. They strive to achieve the purpose and mandate through cutting-edge and evidence-based youth research, sustained advocacy training, and mentorship. For Joy News, Prince Kwame Kudiga's report read to you.
He's a farmer engaged in the services of persons with disabilities with the hope to give them opportunity to improve their livelihood through their work on the farms. He also uses proceeds from the farm to give educational scholarships to some children in his community. He's been able to establish a bakery to support his staff and community. And guess what? He also established a solar lamp manufacturing unit to provide free solar lamps to persons living in island communities in the Adan enclave of the Greater Accra region. These interventions are just a few which won him the 2023 Impact Maker of the Year. In the following piece, we bring you up close with Isaac Ajauto after he was adjudged the overall winner at the maiden edition held in Accra last month.
Adan East is one of the 29 districts within the Greater Accra region. It is situated in the eastern part of the region. Adan is well noted for its annual Asafotufiam festival. The people of Adan are predominantly fisherfolks and farmers. Unemployment is high within the district. Isaac Ajauto is a lab technician and a native of Adan. He has been working hard to change the narrative by helping his people with his widow's mite. He has an NGO called Farm for Livelihood Association. The Farm for Livelihood Association supports the less privileged, brilliant but needy, and the disabled in the Adan East district.
Just in case you are wondering, Joy News organized Impact Makers Awards, the very maiden edition where Mr. Isaac Ajauto was actually adjudged overall best. Indeed, Mr. Ajauto lives in Adan, which is within the Adan East district, but he has an association called Farming for Livelihood Association, where he is actually farming to support the less privileged and persons living with disability in his community, also brilliant but needy kids. So indeed, this is one of the very farms that Mr. Ajauto uses to support his beneficiaries or people who are less privileged in society. So we are here to actually celebrate Mr. Ajauto and then also highlight on the things that Mr. Ajauto has been doing on low-key to the public, motivate others to also do the same for humanity.
And I'm happy now. Many people are seeing what we are doing, and then people are ready to support and they want to come in to help. So we are happy, we are grateful. We thank Joy News and Multimedia Group for this opportunity given to us, and then the platform that we have, that people will see all that we are doing.
So this is one of the many communities where Mr. Isaac Ajauto does his supporting works for the community. And indeed, this is a farm which belongs to one man called Mr. Joshua. He's a person living with disability, and he's the one managing this very farm here.
So I am a person who everybody will know me as a disabled person. Before I'll start the farm. So I don't have my money is my problem. If you direct me, say, let me take this money small or buy something small, and then you went to the farm, the thing that I want to do in the farm. So he's a helpful man in our Adamfo community.
On his behalf, proceeds from the farm are brought to him to invest in the sales of his airtime business and also to support his day-to-day upkeep.
Okay. Le oli papa nolu.
Papa ile le fan.
Kauli yake.
Papa ile le kan ye nuktama nge mulio mekala a ni chulo.
Le no nge yo no. Mene le wa muloko ke bati yo.
Papa azik ajauto.
Mini pihamu.
Papa kagun mone inga pi bobo yem ke boamio le eboye made le isaka e pli transfer ni chumno amne mapi kan yewa lo epi endo ke pieng mumi ni chumo me ayami era nga asop na oni sundo ska ko bede kolo ane inga sole kan maune pedum mana chupa boku ke piesa bulahi kone bentene ni chumo ne e yapan.
He wanted to add mobile money business to his, but currently the family business, the expenses are so high, so we don't get enough support so that we can establish him with the mobile money. So he always tells me if we need help or people can come on board to support so that he can also establish a mobile money business in addition to the airtime that he's selling. And then the card, also get some card, airtime card that he can add to so that he'll be selling. So he needs support.
The Farm for Livelihood Association has made several strides in the Ada East district, including the education sector. The association supports schools on both inland and on the islands.
What we do basically is we provide side book, textbooks for the children to pay for their exam fees and any basic thing that they need to go to school. That's what the Farm for School is doing. Currently in this school, we have some of the children that we also support in the community.
This is an island community within the Ada East district.
Okay, the people on the island, we have 5 main islands. Azakpe, Alokpe, Mafrive, Tuanikope, and Pediatokope. So all this island, we have schools on the island, but they don't have electricity. Our association supply them with textbooks and exercise books. We also provide solar lanterns so that the children on the island can use to stay.
Some friends and family members of Mr. Ajauto, who has known him and his works for years, could not be left out in sharing their stories to Joy News.
He's actually been a blessing to the community, and in this community here, in fact, employment is very difficult. And actually students complain, and because of lack of employment, they engage themselves into all kinds of vices which are not actually good. We are pleading that it involves a lot of money. There are times he's in short of money, and some of us used to call us, but at times it's not always that we also have.
Mr. Ajauto has been doing so many things for this community, because we are not on the national grid, don't have light. He normally surprise the school children with solar lamps, which help them to study.
So, what has these awards been to you?
I'm very much happy that I won this award, and not only me, but for the community. We are so happy, and people are happy. Everybody in the house are happy, and then the communities, they are all excited. So we are very much happy winning this award.
When you were nominated, did you ever think you were going to be winning an award?
Well, I know we are doing a lot, but I didn't know we will be crowned the overall winner. So when it happened, so it's full of joy. So we are so happy.
We'll take a break on Joy NewsDesk. When we return, there's business.
Good morning, welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. The redevelopment of the Ghana Trade Fair Center is likely to be completed in about 5 years, as many investors have shown interest in the ultra-modern facility. According to Chief Executive of the Trade Fair Company, Dr. Agnes Edu, the board will be engaging more investors and developers who will take up separate structures as part of the entire establishment. She spoke to journalists at an investors conference in Accra.
The redeveloped Trade Fair Center is expected to have ultra-modern facilities including a multi-purpose convention center, hotel facilities, and a new playground for children. As part of its mandate to promote trade and exhibition, the Trade Fair Company is engaging investors to sponsor the establishment of more exhibition centers and conference facilities. Chief Executive Dr. Agnes Edu hinted that the company will be engaging more investors within the period to ensure the facility is built within the next 5 years.
We've always set a 3 to 5 year timeline for the project. From the moment that the developer moves on site, which he has in 2023, 3 to 5 years from now, we hope to engage various developers who will come and join us and also develop. So that's the timeline we are giving all our investors. But like I said, I've been very inward in my projections because we know that in this world anything can happen. So barring that anything like COVID can come and sidetrack us again, I think 3 to 5 years is fair to say that the project can be built.
Minister for Finance Ken Oforiatta also expressed confidence about the potential of the center and assured of government's support to get the center redeveloped.
I think the Trade Fair has great potential. I think the estimate is that within the next 3 or 4 years, maybe $1 billion of investment will come through here. Oil revenues, we have to look at strategic projects, especially agriculture, which we have started, in which, we really want to be rice sufficient in 3 years, and that is being worked on. If you go towards Asuchare, we have about 10,000 hectares of new rice being grown, so that we move away from, sort of trading into actually an export-driven economy.
Despite all delays as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, many investors are still on board to ensure successful completion.
Now, Central Oil Refinery is seeking government's help to grow a local industry to support the country's domestic demand for petroleum products. Addressing an entourage from the Ministry of Trade and Industry led by the Minister Katie Amon, chairman of Central Group, disclosed that after completion, the company would be capable of producing 5 million metric tons of quality products per annum, which will help manage demand for foreign exchange for import of finished products.
The visit by the Trade Minister Katie Amon formed part of moves to support local industries and promote manufacturing. Total investment of the Central Oil Refinery project is $1.98 billion and is estimated to provide over 900 direct jobs. Chairman of the Central Group, Zin Nkwan, is seeking government support so it could benefit from some reliefs and strengthen local refinery.
Because I like Ghana, we need to do something good for Ghana, for image future for Ghana. Today in the war, already industrial go high. Our Ghana we need to follow. What can do good thing for Ghana today in the energy side? Refinery is key. I do these projects. Future for our Central Group. Second for our Ghana future to growing is important. To our Ghanaians, all because our Central Refinery for energy side is safe, comfortable. Also get a good quality, good price to supply to whole Ghana.
After a brief tour of the yet-to-be-commissioned facility, Minister for Trade and Industry Katie Amon was impressed with the project. He therefore assured he would work with the Energy Minister and relevant agencies to ensure that Central gets the necessary support, which includes some tax waivers.
I'm going to work very hard at that. Quite a bit, well, if not all of our current production, I think has been forward-traded. But it seems to me significant that structure of this caliber should be run with the crude from this country. I'm going to speak with the Minister for Energy. Obviously, it will be on the table of the President, and we'll take it from there. But it's an interesting proposition that I intend to take up a lot. In the last couple of years, there have been considerable challenges in Parliament as to this particular process of granting the exemptions. We're working on it. The President tasked myself and the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Leader of the House, Wasechi Mensah, to make sure that this matter is completely streamlined. We intend to see the Speaker about it, and I hope that will make some progress. Not only this, there's quite a few of them which are all choked up in the system. We'll hope to get them sorted out.
The facility, which is in its first phase, will refine 2 million metric tons of crude oil per annum.
And that's all in business, and news continues after this break.
And that's how we wrap up on Joy News Desk this morning. Log on to myjoyonline.com. If you get there, there's more of the news and updates of all the developing stories for you. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. See you again at 12.